over here. So now, people cannot complain in the YouTube comments, be like, I can't hear it. It's so echoey. So I bought a microphone for all of you. Hopefully this sounds really good.
It's actually quite phallic, John.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably that'd be perfect for our segments. It's always gets weird, which keeps it kind of fun. The weirder it is, the better it is. So let me move the camera here.
All
All
right.
right. We got a DCAS. Hey, I think you're might be kind of newer to the channel, which is I don't remember seeing your name here. So welcome. Thank you very much for doing these videos. We want to use max conversion with no target CPA. If we set our daily budget at 500, will Google blow through that ASAP, or will it balance the spending? It initially will usually go through that budget pretty quickly. What it's doing though is trying to find a time in which the interest and conversions come in. So it will get better. Usually takes about 3 days. My opinion, if you are wanting to spend 500, start with 100 because it'll still kind of blow through that budget early. Sometimes if you look at the hour per day that a campaign is spending, it's like between 12 and 6 a.m. Sometimes your whole budget's gone. So my opinion is to do one of two things depending upon the industry. If you're like, hey, this is going to spend a lot, there's a lot of demand for this, it's a highly searched product, or it's an established industry that is a lot of activity online, I would set your I would do two things. One, use a division of that daily ad spend, so 100, 250, whatever you can afford to kind of blow to test. But then also start your campaigns at possibly 6 a.m. This means that there's people that are awake that are relevant. It is going to blow through that budget potentially by 10 to 12 a.m. Usually by day 3, though, it's running 20 hours a day, and you can then move it back to a 24/7 campaign if you think that the people that are searching for you at midnight to 6 a.m. are still relevant. There's absolutely the need for it. You have people that are working day shift, night shift. There's I usually adjust my daily my schedules based off of the different types of campaigns I'm going to be running. Usually PMax is 24/7. But you can always just make sure that it launches by or at 6 a.m., then goes till midnight, and then you can kind of see what is going to happen from that. So hopefully that helps there. Usually this is a lot more populated. I'm not sure why there's only one question so far.
Maybe I've scared him away, John.
Like, this isn't Kasim.
Yeah, who's that weirdo with the wig? I was just going to say with that too. They might want to just check the reports and just see if when you're starting, go into your reports and you can do your PMax report and then your MCID report and just compare. Are we getting shopping spend? Is it DSA? And then do your check your CPVs as well, and that way you can get an indication of where PMax is starting to spend your traffic.
Yeah, a lot of times too, you'll see that even sometimes YouTube and display, because channels that can spend. If it doesn't have a lot of inbound search traffic that they would kind of know of, like there's not, and that's what I was saying, it's always going to be dependent upon that activity. If it's to say inbound search traffic is not really relevant, the feed optimizations haven't been done, so I'm not exactly sure the product, so let's push this on display on YouTube, and then just blows through the budget because it will spend there immediately. For sure. All right. Next question, Matt Nightingale, which is such a cool last name. Nightingale, that's awesome. Hi, John and Wigcos. So for everyone, that's Glen. In case you didn't catch it, Glen's filling in for Cos today, but he's got the hair. So hi, John and Wigcos. Two PMax campaigns running one full build with no set tROAS. Second is smart shopping upgrade, same products in both. Is it detrimental? How to scale these, set up the spend weekly? So this structure and setup we use quite often for scale. The reason being is that if they're both running on, let's say, a relatively low budget, when I say relatively, I mean like $100 to $200 per day, which is relatively low in the world of PMax. I have PMax campaigns that run 25 grand per day. That would be high. So depending upon, again, the amount of search traffic available, sometimes if you have a full build PMax that does well on shopping, the second campaign that's an upgrade from smart shopping is just going to fight it. You're going to see flip-flopping performance between the two. The reason being is that PMax is trying to find the channel that it likes the most. And most often it's inbound search or inbound shopping for e-commerce. So it says, okay, well, 70% of my conversions are coming in from inbound shopping. And then we put another inbound shopping campaign on there and say, okay, you go after a different source of audiences. If there's not a bunch of omni-channel traffic coming to the site, these two campaigns are just going to fight over cold traffic. So what ends up happening is we end up running these campaigns a lot of times when we're trying to scale. So it's like if we take our second campaign, which is the smart shopping upgrade, and then we run it at, let's say, $200 a day, but then our full build PMax is running at $2,000 a day. The full build PMax is going to start to go outside of shopping because I've kind of set up a scenario where I've told PMax, okay, you've exhausted your shopping campaign channel budget. Where else are you going to go? It's like, well, I'm going to start going to YouTube and Gmail. I'm going to start to go on display. I'm going to do more DSA. It's going to start to spend elsewhere. And my second campaign, that's my smart shopping, that already ranks better on shopping, is sort of going to take priority. So you're pushing into other channels in PMax, but you're still getting that dynamic remarketing inside of the full build smart shopping campaign. So we usually like to use the structure setup to scale because I can keep pushing, and I'll see the ROAS getting higher and higher and higher on the smart shopping upgraded PMax campaign. ROAS stay low on the full build PMax campaign, a lot of times with brand excluded, and you're kind of going after now two different audiences and into these channels while still having your backup here. But if you're running on relatively low budget, you'll sometimes see those things just kind of split and fight with each other.
Would you, in that second PMax campaign, you've got your upgraded PMax campaign that's got the feed. On the second PMax, would you take the feed out?
You could absolutely test it for sure. And that's going to be depending upon how much omni-channel, because the smart shopping upgraded campaign is going to prioritize people who are already on the site. That's why you run that in addition to a full build. You bring the full build, you bring the people to the site with the full build, and then that smart shopping does a lot of dynamic remarketing, but with the feed. So in that scenario, you'd want the feed in both. In a scenario where there's not a lot of omni-channel traffic, that you're not spending a bunch of money on Facebook, there's no organic, then you would probably want to test taking the feed out of full build, and then, but you're just, it all depends on if there's an existing audience on the site that smart shopping upgrade would prefer. Then it's not going to fight on cold traffic, and that's the scenario we're trying to create.
Sounds like it's one of those depends situations.
Exactly.
You'd look at the reports then, wouldn't you? Just to go, okay.
Yeah, you look at the reports.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, yep. It's exactly right. Sorry, go ahead though.
Sorry, me.
Oh, good. Yep. Awesome.
Cool. Next one. Standard shopping, doing well.
Standard campaign doing well. Audience 3K, 400 ROAS with few years of data. PMax should have enough to be decent. Yes. Some things though. PMax is not going to have the same performance as standard shopping campaign, or when it's a standard campaign, I'm guessing it's a standard shopping campaign. You may want to start PMax even without a feed. This way, what you're doing is you're kind of locking in your singular channel performance, and you're not going to interrupt it. With a known audience that standard shopping campaign is working on. When you launch PMax, what you're doing is any of the optimizations to CPC, to placement, to exclusions, to negative keywords, all that goes away. So my question would say, if you've done a really good job at optimizing your audiences, your devices, your negative keywords, and your placements, like if you're on manual CPC, if you were to take that campaign and remove all those settings, would it have good performance? And if not, I start PMax without a feed and let it work on other channels and give it at least 3 months. It's been a use case that's been proven time and time again. Gert, actually, one of the people that is probably watching here, just sent me a screenshot that says, yeah, 3 months is you're right, 3 months worked. And it was like kind of a lower spend campaign, but on month 3, it's like, it just blew up. And it's getting like a 1,000 or 2,000 ROAS or something like that. It's working well. But you need to give it enough time, because what you're doing is all the time, effort, and energy you've invested inside that standard shopping campaign, you're going to have to give that same time, effort, and energy for PMax. It's going to do it for you. But if it took you 3 months to get the standard campaign doing well, you got to kind of take that into consideration when you're saying, well, okay, now PMax, do it faster and for half the budget, and no optimizations. It needs that time. So I would test PMax without a feed, give it time, keep it on a lower budget, lower than what you're doing in your standard shopping campaign. It is going to remarket your standard campaign. So sometimes your standard campaign, depending upon your attribution model, may even look better because you kind of added omni-channel remarketing, even if it's on display without a feed. So things like YouTube display and GSP and discovery and dynamic and remarketing, not dynamic remarketing. But that's the area that's actually going to get hit in your structure. Is if you're running standard campaign is doing well and your dynamic remarketing is doing well, it's going to suck up that dynamic remarketing too if you put a feed in there. So just know that there's two areas that it could affect. And then also watch your brand campaign when you introduce PMax, because you're doing a lot of outbound cold traffic. It's going to probably convert after they see your ad 4, 5, 6 times and Google the brand name. So make sure you're getting a good read on all those channels.
Just touching on that, John, if they've kicked off a new PMax campaign, and as we know, PMax does like to go after brand, would you keep a brand campaign going? Or if you don't have a brand campaign, would you turn one on so the brand campaign tries to get that traffic away from the PMax, or just let PMax take over?
Yeah, and it depends on if there is a good amount of brand traffic already, and if is one running. I usually, if I run a PMax and I'm introducing it, I'll take my brand campaign and kind of overspend. You're trying to outrank PMax for that, and also use exact match because that also helps give you a better rank. So take a brand campaign, potentially overspend on it a little bit just to not have all that traffic flow right into PMax, or contact your Google rep and then have your brand excluded in PMax campaign, because there's only two areas that gets excluded in PMax when you introduce a brand negative, which is your search and your shopping. You have already removed shopping, so it's just going to add it to your search, which is fairly safe.
All right, next question. Maya.
Have you ran other campaigns to support PMax, A, while it is learning, and B, after getting the insights and amplifying through a separate DSA campaign? Yes. The thing to note is that, and this is against even Google's Trump card that they came out with something called a Trump card, which means what campaign trumps the other campaign in terms of priority level. They originally said that a standard search campaign with exact match keywords would always trump Performance Max. That turned out to not be true. So just know that as a good rule of thumb, anything that you do on those other channels is going to try to be eaten up by Performance Max. We saw this recently with a display campaign test. What this means is that we had 25 Performance Max campaigns running on one account. We launched 2 discovery campaigns and they started working really well, and then they died. And then inside of PMax, the discovery campaign started to work better, theoretically. We couldn't prove it. There's no data to support it. But after launching it, all of a sudden, it was kind of like 500 conversions just kind of went out there, and all of a sudden 500 conversions kind of came into Performance Max. So it was like, okay, that was a pretty one-to-one switch. It happened twice in a week. It was like, that's pretty obvious. Just basing off of trends and gut feeling. Talked to Google about it too. They said, oh, that's a good, interesting thought. We're wondering if that was going to happen. I'm like, well, thanks. we're your test dummies. Even happened with discovery with a feed. So what this means is that it is going to help learn. Now, I have tried it in learning mode. It's kind of a standard operating procedure for us. We always launch PMax in addition to a bunch of other campaigns, because PMax is going to find one of the likes, and then all the other campaigns are going to spoil the other channels that PMax doesn't like with the current low budget splits, like kind of everything across the board. But as you start to ramp up more and more on the supportive channels, a few things are going to happen. Here's a good example. We had a PMax campaign running for a client for about 3 months. It failed until YouTube inside of PMax started working well. We multiplied the views by the cost per view, found it was about 80 to 90% of all the spend inside the Performance Max campaign was running on YouTube. We kept that same daily budget on the Performance Max campaign and launched a YouTube campaign at 2x. 2x the daily ad spend of the Performance Max just on YouTube. We saw a very, very good increase in overall performance. Even the ROAS, the MER, the global ROAS went from like 2.2, 2.4, 2.8. It kept going up the more we scaled. We're like, great, we found a good channel. PMax found it for us, so we just threw gasoline on the fire. Then what happened to PMax, though, is PMax started to get less and less and less spend. Or it started to give less and less spend into YouTube, and it started to do more into shopping. Most likely, dynamic remarketing still gets fed through listing groups, though, as a product sale from the feed. So PMax said, okay, well, I'm kind of getting outpaced by this other channel, and I found another channel inside of Performance Max that works well. Remember, it's fluid. So as you influence it, it gets to decide where to go. So because we've simply outspent the YouTube budget inside Performance Max on a YouTube campaign, YouTube started to go, or Performance Max started to go away from YouTube. We outranked it, and it had 500 channels you can go into. Found that either shopping or dynamic marketing worked. It was also a byproduct of people actually seeing the YouTube ads so much that they just Googled the brand name and clicked on the shopping ad inside of PMax that converted. So just be mindful of that flow of traffic. You might start to generate your own inbound shopping traffic off your brand name inside of Performance Max with high top of funnel outside influences in that same account. So yes, there's a few different scenarios that are going to take place. And that's it. Either PMax is going to steal from the other sport channels. You can do it while it's learning. That's actually a good idea because it'll help it. But depending upon your daily budget dictates, will PMax steal all of it or some of it and allow you to expand?
DKs. Thank you very much, John.
Welcome, DKaz.
Ryan. Random question. Do we use Search 360? If yes, why? If no, why?
I've inherited a client that used it. And the only thing that we saw was that the attribution of those conversions were completely off. I didn't spend enough time in it, and I know that it's a different kind of network that you can serve on, and it's more global. I don't have enough experience in it to say that it's good or bad, because the one time we had a client that was spending $1 million a month using it, I was like, oh dear God, this is the reason why Google is getting fed wrong data from SA360. So we ended up pausing SA360 and actually really helped get the client their cost per acquisition from $275 down to $86 in 4 months. And it was simply by using the right data. Why SA360 was sending back the wrong data as an external conversion action, I don't know. But I haven't retried it because there was just not a need to yet. So there's probably a lot more people out there that are smarter than me in SA360. My one experience was horrible though.
Steve, training PMax campaign with a separate DSA. Does it matter whether I use Google or Microsoft for my DSA? MS is cheaper.
Yeah, it matters. Google is the only thing that's going to learn from other Google campaigns. What PMax is going to do to your Microsoft DSA is simply dynamically or non-dynamically remarket them, depending upon if they visit a product page and if it's e-commerce or not. But yeah, it'll learn off of people, but it won't have the data because Google's not going to be able to say, well, Microsoft's person that Microsoft knows about them is this. It doesn't inherit the demographics of that user. Doesn't know what interests, what affinities. It just knows that when a person comes to the site, visit this product, they sometimes buy, and it's just going to try to go after those people. And it's not really going to have a lookalike audience that is going to be fruitful to Google, especially as this goes on longer in the future. We're going to know less and less about these people on third-party cookies go away. So my suggestion would be to train that conversion action now on Google in preparation for next year when Topics API rolls out and our world just gets rocked.
Ryan, first comment as a new member. G'day, Ryan.
Hey, welcome.
Aboard. Appreciate the videos and rambles. Crazy valuable. Using your tactics to help scale my e-com startup. So many questions, but just wanted to show some appreciation first.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. It's glad you're here. And go ahead and ask away.
Ask away, man. All right, next one. Thanks.
You got
it. Amaya's back. Tell us more how you feel Performance Planner for PMax will change things, and how do you recommend using it?
I made a joke about this yesterday in our internal Slack message where it's like, it should have a button where it's like, hey, would you like us to capture all of your branded search traffic and just completely mess up all the results that we set out for you? Performance Planner is good if in a perfect world scenario. It's like, hey, if you don't have Facebook traffic and if you don't have branded traffic, and if you don't have all of the people coming to your site and buying multiple products throughout the year, here's what's going to happen. I find that not to be the case most often, though. Not with the clients that we use. Our clients are usually like, okay, I'm already spending 30, 50, 100K on Facebook, and they're doing the same thing in Google.
Yeah.
Performance Planner doesn't take into consideration the algorithmic targeting of warm traffic on the site. So my opinion is it's a good exercise. I'm very skeptical about it just from what we know happens. So yeah, I'm of the opinion that if Google was the only thing that existed in the realm of digital marketing for clients, yeah, it's gonna be great. Um, if you don't have a lot of brand and return traffic, yeah, it's a dishonest way to kind of give you a false positive into testing it, is my opinion.
Sounds like it's going to be one of these things that we'll step into tentatively.
Yeah, I played around with some performance planning on some existing client accounts. I'm like, that's actually what happened, but it's okay. Like
Yeah.
it's got a good heart.
Benjamin, happy guys. Hey guys, happy Friday. Happy Friday to you, Ben.
Happy guys, hey Friday.
Matt's back with Mr.
Hey,
Nottingham. New ecom client, relatively unknown brand. Do you start with any PMax or go standard shopping, discovery, DSA, YouTube, or would you just start with full build PMax to find best channel?
full build PMax alongside of Discovery, DSA, YouTube, etc. If you're going to use shopping, and it's a relatively unknown brand, first thing I would do is make sure your feed is spot on, because I think that the PMax campaign on a new, a relatively unknown brand, you're going to benefit from omni-channel remarketing that the PMax campaign can do at that low spend. But still teach it where and take control over the account to say Google doesn't know about our users. Google doesn't know who we are. I can assist it in areas that it can look outside of the signals that you give it, and that's building those supportive campaigns. So take your traditional marketer hat, put it on, and build out everything but Performance Max, and then take your like new age marketer and put it on and build out a full build PMax and run them side by side. But make sure you're not giving don't go over 25% of your daily ad spend into PMax. Keep it under 25% when you're starting off, because it's going to not suck up and take over and kill everything else. It's going to have enough to rob from those other channels as you run them on an even playing field.
So just to extrapolate on that, and that was going to be my question. You said 25% PMax. You got 100% of your budget. You've got all these campaign types. You got 25% PMax. What would be your breakdown in your other campaign types?
Well, actually, I wouldn't go over. It might
Over.
be 10. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the thing, is it depends on if it's a relatively unknown brand, and let's say we had $1,000 a day. I would want to start off with only about 200 of that inside of Performance Max. I'd run a small brand campaign, let's say 10%, because I do want to see the return traffic because it is relatively unknown. So I want to capture that return traffic to know I'm at least hitting the right audiences. Depending upon the CAC versus potential LTV and the profit margin, I may or may not run more or less DSP. So probably stay a little bit lighter on YouTube. No display, not yet anyway. I don't think we have the budget for it. I would go more bottom of the funnel first, and I'd let PMax do the inbound search and shopping to its targets, and then run a DSA, an inbound pure broad search, so I can keep my CPCs low, and not run a dynamic remarketing just yet, and then launch other campaigns that I know might be good, like competitor, to see if I can scoop up some instantaneous traffic because they don't know about us. So I'm just going to go the areas where I know my target is. But yeah, it's really dependent upon like the onboarding and what their goals are on the profit margins. To say, well, if you have high profit margins and it's a fairly well-known product or something that's going to be really impressive, I might run YouTube really well if we have really good YouTube content, and then run my brand at a small level, and then run Performance Max to see if my getting dynamically remarketed through them. But yeah, I run a search campaign if I'm pure broad. I run a DSA campaign. I run a Performance Max campaign, a brand campaign, a competitive campaign, and then potentially a YouTube campaign and a YouTube remarketing campaign if you have the content for it.
Not
And you have
Discover.
what's that?
Not Discover at the start. Use that
Discover. Discover's good, but again, if you have a nice, good LTV and you can afford kind of 80% ROAS while you're ramping up, for sure. But if it's like, hey, I have 20% profit margins and these people buy this $200 product once, not going there just yet. I'd rather go more bottom of the funnel to support my testing of top or upper funnel with the inbound conversion value that I'm getting from people looking for a product like mine already.
Roger. Luxury blades.
Hey,
Do you guys use any heat map tracking software to get CRO? If so, what do you use?
yeah, Clarity, Microsoft Clarity, and what is it called?
Lucky Orange?
Yeah. Yeah, Lucky
Yep.
Orange. I love Lucky Orange. It's so easy to use. You drop one code in the header one time, and it's like, here's all the recordings of everything that's ever to your site last week, and here's the source and
Yeah.
the Google Ads campaign that came from. I'm like, thank you. So I like Lucky Orange just for the ease of use.
Yep.
But that's my favorite tool. Just the most familiar with it.
Yeah, that's a paid tool though, isn't it? You get a free up to a certain amount, and then you've got to pay for it.
Yeah, it's like $12 a month too.
Yeah.
So I mean, you
Well, we
pay
just
that when
rolled
you're
out-
trying to optimize your spend. So you're,
Yeah.
it's kind of a
Yep.
it's an essential.
One, I think Cadence, we rolled out an SOP that all our clients are getting on board with Microsoft Clarity because it can just be done through the Google Tag Manager. It's really simple. So, yeah. And it's free.
Yep, that's true. It's very free, and I think that was one thing that I like because like what I do get with Lucky Orange is that like instantaneous chat feature. So I can watch someone live on the site, and if they're stuck on a checkout page, I can be like, "Hey, it looks like you're having problems like checking out," and then you can kind of get a little more data, or like if you pop a chat after they've been on the site for longer than 2 minutes on the checkout page, if your abandoned cart rate's too high, you can actually start to ask specific questions like, hey, it looks like you have some problems checking out. Is there anything I can help you? Any questions I can help answer? And you start gathering kind of like not necessarily CRO, but actual user data. So that's the part that we like. We actually diagnosed a fairly large insurance property damage company that actually was we started to have the heat map on there, and it was good to see that people were actually having problems filling out the form because the form was so long and the questions were so vague. They would click on that, and then you see them click off, and then come back and they click on it and they type something and then erase it, and then they leave, and we're like, oh, well, they don't know what that is. So it was a good way to see that, and then you can actually even chat with them and find out what questions they have. Oh, one on Lucky Orange one, we had a campaign that was they were marketing online doula training, but it was like an $800 course, and it was like sign up for the course online, and we thought it was pretty obvious, but then we started seeing low conversion rates for really good quality traffic, and we're like, what the heck is going on? Like everything's perfect right up to the point where they are about to buy and then they don't. We threw the chat on there because we saw them kind of getting stuck in that which one should they buy in the checkout page, and the questions were, when is it coming to Arizona? Where is the training? I can't find the actual location of the class. Like how long is the class and how long do I have to be there? Do I have to show up earlier? And we're like, oh crap, these people don't know it's online. They think it's somewhere local to them. And so we're doing a national campaign, and people are like, where in Minnesota is this? Like, I don't see this in Florida. So we're like, oh God. So everywhere it's like online. And then it just started cranking off after that. So just stupid things that we thought were obvious. We didn't have the word online enough on the page, and they were chatting that back at us when we're asking questions like, what are you doing? I'm like, just buy.
Makes sense. Benjamin Miller, question on a search campaign for a local-based service business that has a high CPC. What is the best bidding strategy to generate leads while controlling for crazy costs?
So search campaign for local-based service business. Okay, I would test a broad campaign with a maximized conversion bidding strategy with a target CPA 30% higher than what you would like to achieve. I use this campaign quite regularly with lower spend clients in high competition markets. I'm getting $75 plastic surgery leads in downtown Chicago, going up against some pretty big people for $2,000 per month budget. The reason being is that pure broad keywords, so no phrase, no exact, all in one campaign, consolidate your daily ad spends into that one campaign. Use no fewer than 2 words per keyword. More long tail you can get, the better. But that broad will allow you to keep it long tail, which means relevant, but account for all the variations of different ways that people search for things that your competition is not bidding high on. So, for example, like this one company, I'm not going to use the actual name of things. I don't want to give away any information, but let's call it implementation. So, like a plastic surgery nose procedure, and they'll say things like cost of nose job in, and it's like $1.29 click, and then we get a conversion. Things like how does it work? How long do I heal? Like all of those kind of lesser, cheaper traffic. If you're looking at crazy high cost and crazy high competition, you're not going to go toe to toe with them. I don't care how much optimization you do. I've tried it many, many years down to, well, they bid up a little bit more and now we're screwed. Like it always comes down to that. So the one way that I found that it works much more consistently is a longer tail broad match campaign. No negative keywords. If you want $100 leads, set it at like 130 tCPA and set enough a hefty enough daily budget in order for it to spend, because it's not going to necessarily spend the full budget on a 130 CPA restriction. That's what's going to limit your spend. But then you'll see that over a course of about 1 to 2 months, it's going to be fairly consistent. And make sure you track all of your conversions, chats, phone calls, form fills. This needs data to learn. If you're only tracking a few conversions, it's not going to learn. So
you wouldn't do any negative keywords in that campaign?
Not initially, no.
No, not initially, but as you got data, you'd start chucking negs. What about setting up, those local smart campaigns that you can set up? Would you go down that track? Would you consider using Google's black box or go standard search?
If I didn't have to answer it to anybody, as an agency, we can't. Because like, stop these calls from coming in. I'm like, whoa, cross your fingers. As an agency, we have to. It's like, hey, this lead's good. Like, get me more of these. Like, we can crank it up. Black box can absolutely be viable but if you need to control placement or at least, stop the good or stop the bad from coming in and double down on the good, it's a little hard to do that.
Sure. John.
The M and the N is really close to each other. I've spelled my name that way before, but that's a username, so I think it's
we'll call him John. We have two products. We put both product creatives into one asset group. For example, shampoo A has 10 photos and shampoo B has 10 photos, making a total of 20 within the asset group. I have a feeling there's a part 2 to this. No?
We put both product creatives into one asset group. Okay.
Example. Yep. I'm just seeing if there's a follow-up to that. John, where are you? No. We probably need a bit more information on that one, John.
I think I know what you're going to go to, but let's keep moving on in case I got it wrong and I'm going to save us a few minutes of explaining it.
Ryan, scaling up spend during the holiday season while maintaining a minimum break-even ROAS. If account is break-even, would you up PMax spend or test high-index audience with YouTube sales objective?
If you're going to keep the break-even spend, YouTube is not going to be where you're going to find your immediate success in scaling up for sure. There's not enough time between Black Friday or today and Black Friday for a YouTube campaign to have a break-even ROAS at any sort of scale. It needs longer than 4 weeks. So I would absolutely scale up on Performance Max. Now, here's my question, and it's something I can't necessarily answer just yet. If you're running Performance Max without a tROAS and without a tCPA, and you're getting good performance now, scale up, but don't scale up like Black Friday starting tomorrow. Scale up like Black Friday starting next month. What I mean by that is add 20 to 30% each week up until then. And then the week of Black Friday, you can up your budget by 40 or 50% if you have the funds available. What you're doing right now is you're building audiences. Yes, some people will buy, but the rate of increased spend is not going to equal the rate of increased return. If there's a product that people might be waiting on until Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or if they're, if it's more of an expensive product, then they're not necessarily ready to purchase just yet, or your time lag / sales cycle is like 2 to 3 weeks. What you're doing right now is you're investing in the audience that is going to buy on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but don't drop the ball on Black Friday, Cyber Monday by missing out on even just your email communication. Like right now, we usually see this the time of year where email signups that we track start to increase. That's a good sign. You might have, I wouldn't count that as a conversion, but watch those conversions and make it a secondary conversion action that's not affecting the bidding strategy, but watching it. As you scale up and up and up, if you see that you're getting 50% more spend and 20% more sales, but your email signups going up 70%, good. That means that you are going to be able to hit those people on email on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and you don't have to invest all in your paid traffic channels. You're building an audience that you're taking a loss on right now to make up for that heightened volume of sales come Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So scale up now enough that you can afford. Don't overspend. Because again, people that found out about you today are not going to remember you on Black Friday, Cyber Monday when 700,000 other advertisers say Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale. Like you're gonna get lost in the ether. So we have seen some of our clients are running on Facebook ads right now, an email sign up to say, hey, we're going to be unlocking a special price for the people that have signed up to this list. It's actually going to be 20% lower than our Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And what they're doing is they're gathering up those email lists and they're going to fire off an email during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And those people get to buy it at cheaper. They're all going to get a discount code that is unique to them. It's just list building right now. It's list building. It's audience building. It's like pixeling them right now. To kind of use old school terms, cost per pixel is what you're paying for right now. So that's something to think about is during your scale, don't expect the same return. Your break-even ROAS, you may fall down to your break-even ROAS. If you go a little bit further down there, it means you have a bigger audience, which means your Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale might be bigger, which means you may have a better return on that spend because of more people. But again, it's only you can really kind of discuss amongst yourselves, like how much are we willing to spend to grow this audience and maybe go 30% higher than what we were planning on or what we were comfortable with from a sales season and see if that pays off for you.
Yeah, so it sounds like it being proactive now in building a list to get ready to promote whatever your offer is probably the best practice to employ.
If you go 10-20% below your break-even ROAS, I wouldn't get scared and pull back. I'd maybe not keep scaling up, but don't be your break-even ROAS to be the end all be all, because you're going to count your day from November 1st to November 30th. And that's why they call it Black Friday. That's when your company goes from red to black, profitable.
Yep. Right, we've got 20 minutes. Let's punch through these. We've got a brand new ad account. I launched a PMax campaign. I noticed it wasn't spending close to the 200 budget with 2 asset groups. I just removed tCPA to jumpstart it. Is that the right move?
Yeah. So this is the thing of the brand new ad account with the 2 different products. So I don't use tCPA and tROAS and Performance Max, period, unless it's feed only. And what you're basically doing is saying, hey, go explore these 6 different channels, but don't spend a dime unless you know you can get a cost per acquisition under that. And it says, well, how do I know if I haven't explored? So the target isn't a target of saying like, hey, Google, just work better. What it means is that only go after the people you know. It needs that audience first. So I don't use it for my campaigns ever. General rule of thumb, if you're going to use it, don't use it until day 90. That's the big enough audience for it to continue to learn.
Jan Slovnik, do you guys advertise outside of the US? If so, how do you evaluate the differences between markets, for example, pricing, messaging, etc.?
Yeah, we do, but it's very little, only because we usually have US speaking countries. We don't have a lot of, I think we'll have like 2 people on our whole team that speak French. As an example, one's a C-level in the company, so it's not that she's not necessarily building the ads. So just for example, it's rare that we have it outside of the country, and if it's not, it's an English-speaking country. And our economy right now is fairly in line with Australia, with the UK, and so in Canada. So it's not too much difference. We don't have too much experience. One of the problems is because we like to remain as autonomous as possible. And if I'm looking at search terms in a different language, I don't know the intent of that person. I have to translate every single search term, and there's thousands of them. So we fall short in servicing our clients because we can't be as efficient in knowing what's going on. So we don't really necessarily evaluate the differences between those markets, just because I can't even evaluate if I'm optimizing the campaign correctly. I don't even speak the same language. So hopefully that helps.
We do have some clients that we do market for in other countries, though. Just as solutions, we don't. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other part too. Is like we do have a client. Like I speak to a gentleman named Adrian like 2 or 3 times a day, and he is on the ball, and that's what's nice. It's like, hey, I noticed this shouldn't be there. I'm like, perfect. Let's take it out. So, does sometimes require a person with a native language to help, but we don't want that because now we're bugging our clients all the time. Our clients are helping us do the job they're paying us for, which is hard.
Madhav Pasricha. Probably butchered that. Hey, we have a perfume store and we are currently max, I'm presuming that's PMax, with almost 600% ROAS. But recently we've seen an increase in average CPC, which has increased our budget 2 times.
Yeah, so the Change Network networks or there's competition increase. So, for example, if you do have good performance on a network with low CPCs, if that audience starts to go cold or get burnt, it says, okay, I'm going to switch channels. And this could be from switching from shopping to search, YouTube to shopping, dynamic remarketing to cold traffic. So something happened there that I can't tell you what it specifically happened, but it sounds like it actually changed channels. If it's been systemic, like an increase in CPC and it's kind of stayed there. Not just like every other third day it gets a little bit higher CPC. Like if it looks like it's a pretty even move, it's most likely changed channels. I'd check the first thing is check your search categories compared to your listing groups, compared to your all conversions, and also check your views. See if you can find a correlation between which channel that changed on it, because I'm 90% positive that's what happened.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea to check the reports too, because check them week by week and see, oh, this is where it changed. Then have a look and see if it did change network.
Yeah, or it could also be Black Friday, Cyber Monday ramp up every competition and nothing changed. So check your auction insights too.
Yeah. Gert Groot.
Hey, Gert.
Do you test PMax with display excluded for lead generation? I see a lot of bad placements and thinking of running a separate display for remarketing.
No, that's actually something that we haven't tested yet. I think you and I may have talked about. It's probably an extremely good idea. My hunch is I'm as good, and this isn't bragging, it's just my internal choice. I'm as good on non PMax campaigns as PMax campaigns. And I always have this general rule of thumb, like if I'm hacking off large channels, I probably would have a better chance of going to those individual channels and choosing my targeting. So for lead generation, even on channels that we had no display traffic for, that we can actually see that majority was coming in. I mean, 90% was coming into shopping and search. A 5-step form to build a really custom $20,000 product started getting like 80% spam. I'm like, click farms are spending 20 minutes on our site to fill out a junk form. Like, holy crap. And it's inbound search. I'm like, and you could see that it's like ABC company in the United States. Like, who's typing that? Like, you can see it's targeted from outside through VPN because they're adding the words in the United. Like, no one says like doctor's office near me in the United States. Like, no, it's outside country. So I can't get rid of them no matter what I do. They just find a different channel eventually. I've actually had a $200,000 per month camp client. We just stopped Performance Max and went all YouTube. We're getting a little bit better CPAs now, which is actually pretty cool, but it's working better than Performance Max. But not every scenario is going to work out that way. So I just stay away from lead generation.
Yeah, so we're not doing lead gen in PMax.
Nope.
Okay. Madev, we are getting decent sales, but the CPC is going up. I think that's from a previous question. Yep, that was the...
Yeah, I do think that it could be competition. Check auction insights for sure.
And he's followed that up with maximize conversion with target CPI. So he's had his first question was running PMax, 600 ROAS, average CPC has increased, and so has the budget.
Well, if you're using target CPA, then you're probably still on inbound search channels, which means it's more likely to be competitive. So people that are moving their search campaigns and their shopping campaigns, or your competition also hopped on to Performance Max because they upgraded their smart shopping campaigns. This is that transition time where the land of milk and honey from 6 months ago when we started ringing the Performance Max bell. If you haven't got on that yet, this is going to be the time where you and everybody that you know is jumping into Performance Max. So yeah, it's when you're the first one there and you're the only one in the ecosystem, I get all the traffic and all the algorithmic targeting, and then Google's pushing it because it's a new product and they want to make those sales. But it seems like it's more competitive now. tCPA will lock out of display, GSP, YouTube, and discovery because it doesn't know CPA as well as inbound search, which means primarily you're going to get shopping and search traffic. If it's your brand name that you're seeing inside of your insights tabs, a competitor bidding on your brand name too, that also could be something that is affecting this. Like if you do have a 30-40% of your conversions inside of your insights show your brand name, if someone comes in and says, okay, well, now you're going to pay twice as much for that brand name, CPC can go from 2 to 4, which means your ROAS could potentially be cut by 25% because that was 50% of all of your activity. So it does seem to be competitive for sure.
Prime Detailers, Super Chat, $5.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Woohoo!
We can get Glenn here a new wig.
I
Or
think
me
this
one,
might be
I'm bald.
this might be the first and last time I wear this. Is that what
There you
Kasim
go.
does? Does he do the flick?
Yeah, it does that. They just start shampooing it right in the middle. It gets really awkward.
How to increase your daily budget without going back to learning phase. I'm running maximize conversions and Google search only ad.
So this one is difficult because it's completely up to the potential size of an audience that Google knows. And you can sort of test this actually in real time by refreshing. Typically, I see anytime there's a 75% increase in my daily ad spend when I'm on a search campaign. You can actually turn it right back off by downgrading that budget. So if we went from $100 a day to 200 and it goes into learning, go back down to 100, refresh it, go back to eligible. You can kind of find out the areas where it's learning. It doesn't mean learning is bad. It's not meaning that your learning mode is going to completely crush the campaign, although it does seem that way. What it basically does is reset your time lag. So Google says, okay, you're spending $100 a day. I know I can go up to 175. That's the potential audience of my click share that I have immediate success that I can go and find now. And if you do 185, it says, okay, learning mode, which means I'm going to go through the 175 people up from 100. I can go to 175 and the rest of the 10, I'm learning. Is that bad performance? Not necessarily. It just means that you slightly outpaced what it knew it could do. By how much is dependent upon how much you've increased it. So again, it's variable based on Google's understanding. There's no golden rule, but that's how it works. So if you find that 100 to 200 goes into learning, but 100 to 175 is not, I'd kick it up to 185, 190 if you wanted to increase like that much per daily ad spend more, like let's say double it and then maybe back up by 20%, which means I'm going to get 90% efficiency on what I know, but I'm learning the rest of the 10% of the way.
Just on that too, John, you know how often we'll see inside a campaign, you're checking their campaigns daily or whatever, and then all of a sudden inside the budget, it's got limited by budget, a big yellow button, and then you click on it and it's going, hey, spend more, reduce less, blah, blah, blah. And that's obviously the algorithm saying, hey, we want you to spend more. We think there's more opportunity. What would you do? What would John do there?
So what's interesting is I've actually tried to hit the limited by budget and scale up to the recommended, but if I'm ever using a tROAS or tCPA, it never spends it. No. I mean, it might get there in 2 months when it's like, hey, hang tight. Now we're no longer limited. I got to figure out a way to get there. Yeah. That's going to be different than if I am not limited by budget. So normally what I see is the only time I will use that setting. For example, I'm spending $100 a day. I'm getting a $50 CPA. And it says you can go from 100 to recommended of 220. And you will achieve a cost per acquisition either $2 cheaper or $3 or $4 more. If it's relatively the same amount of CPA, it says, hey, if you add X, your CPA will go from X to Y. If that's within 5% of what I'm currently getting, I will test it at half. So if it says $100 a day to $200 a day, and you will receive twice as many conversions for the same cost, I'll move it up 50, test it for 5 days, make sure it's real, then I'll move it the other way. I only trust about half the time.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Next one, Madav. And should we run any other campaign with PMax to assist it? Oh, that was a previous one.
Yeah. A good rule of thumb. I would run your other individual channels alongside of PMax. What you're trying to do is teach PMax where to go, and then look for where PMax is not going to go, and it will be different every time.
Matt, thanks for answering, John. You're the Google GOAT.
Thank you. It's, I think, greatest of all time, right? You didn't actually call me an animal.
Have you seen that latest Thor: Love and Thunder movie?
No, I don't. Since I have 2 little girls, if it's not on Disney, I haven't seen it.
I watched it yesterday. They've got these 2 goats in there, and they just scream. It's hilarious. Anyway, probably lost here. Ryan, search campaign bringing return but not spending full daily spend because of poor search rank. Would you increase target CPA or create YouTube campaign targeting same audience or other?
Your search campaign is bringing return but not spending full daily spend because of poor search rank. Increased TC. No, so the fact that I think that you're having a poor search rank most likely means that your search loss impression share by rank is too high, and that might be a side effect of your tCPA. What you're doing is saying, Google, don't spend a dime unless you can bring me this. And then Google's going to say, well, I don't know if I can bring you that, so I'm going to bid purposely low. And then it says, well, you're bidding low, you get a bad rank. So increasing your tCPA would just make sure that it's actually restricted harder. I would lower your daily budget a bit to where you're comfortable spending, 100% of that with fairly mediocre results in the beginning, and then just turn off tCPA. Your YouTube campaign is just gonna be a waste of money at this point because initially it's going to have poor performance. It needs 8 days at 15 times your current tCPA. So if you set your CPA at $50, times that by 15, spend that per day on YouTube, then wait 8 days. That's a good general rule of thumb. But I would actually just, if you're spending, let's say $200 a day, back it down to $100 a day, completely remove the tCPA, give it a few weeks. Would be my initial testing of how I can bring that back to life.
Gert Groot to control crazy bids in broad match with maximized conversions. tCPA. Do you set a max CPC in portfolio strategy?
No, I actually just use a few things. I'll shut off keywords. I will negate the search terms that are high spend and low converting, and I will actually throttle or increase the tCPA. The max CPC in portfolio strategy, for example, I have a lot of campaigns that will run on pure broad, and I'll get an average of, let's say, $2 cost per conversions. But go into your search terms if you're running it. Go into your search terms, look at the last 60 days of performance, descend your average CPC, so starting at the high and going down, and I'll see like 20, 25, and $30 clicks where it's only 1 or 2 clicks and I get a conversion. I still want those. I don't mind paying $50 a lead. It's two $20 clicks or 25 $2 clicks. I'm averaging out the same. So that's where I usually I will use my tCPA to throttle what it is going to A, spend per day, and B, what it's going to bid. Because if I can use that, I set myself for a nice long-term success. Because if competition goes up and I can't reach those levels that my competition may be at when I need to snipe that conversion from my competitor, I stop myself in the meantime, but I spend the money warming them up.
Yeah. We did a couple of tests using that portfolio bid strategy and limiting the max CPC. And whilst it does limit the spend, it doesn't convert. You're just
Volume
missing
drops.
It drops, but you're missing out on those valuable clicks. That's the reason why that click was worth $5 or $6 is because Google went, well, this thing's going to convert, so I'm going to charge you $6 for it.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like if in broad with tCPA, you'll get the $50 click, but most of the time you'll get a conversion off it. But it only happens like 10 times a month.
Yeah. Madhav, we have 1,500 products. Oh, that's from his previous one. Running a PMax to assist it. Okay, so he's got a PMax campaign, wants to run other campaigns with it, and he's got 1,500 products. I think we've pretty well answered that question.
Yeah.
Benjamin, thanks, guys.
You got it.
Pleasure, Benjamin. Ryan, yes, running PMax, max conversion value, good advice, thank you. Yes, 2-week sales cycle with high AOV, seeing the same thing with email with a dip in ROAS, but we'll wait until you see return.
Nice.
Great. John, the follow-up is, should we put 20 photos of shampoo A instead of splitting the creators within the asset groups? We only sell 2 products on the website. One is $25 more than the other.
Put all of your products imagery and everything in one asset group. What Google does initially is ignore signals. And if you have one asset group and 100 users per day, if you add another asset group, you're just going to see that first asset group go down to 50. So then the other asset group earn 50. It completely splits it 1-to-1 every single time you add another asset group. So I would take all of your products in A and put it in one asset group, all of your products, images, and all that in B and put it in a different asset group, and then use your asset group conversion report inside the search categories, your listing groups, and also the reports that Glenn mentioned to see which campaign is winning. At least you've isolated, because it's not like we show product A, then show product B, then show product A, and then they clicked and bought. Well, what happened? Everything did. So you can't control that very well.
Would you consider splitting product A and product B into their own campaigns? Because there's $25 price difference.
It depends on how. I mean, if they're 2 different shampoos, Google's just doesn't take the campaign that has the better performance and give it more essentially conversions for the search term. So you still have a person that's typing in like healthy hair shampoo. Now it's like, okay, well, which campaign does it give it? Well, which campaign is working better? this one. Does this mean that this search term works better on that product? No, it just means that this search term Google chose that product because previously it has better performance. So it kind of locks stuff into a self-fulfilling prophecy.
All right. We've got 4 minutes. We've got a couple of questions to go. I think we'll do it.
All right.
John's back. If tCPA or tROAS is not set, doesn't that mean you won't be ever profitable because you're allowing to Google to acquire customer at whatever cost?
No, because you're trying to maximize the conversion, maximize the conversion value for the daily ad spend. It's not going to be, if it chooses a $10 click and gets one sale and you have a $20 per day budget, it's going to try to get an $8 click or $7 click to get 3 sales for that same $20 budget. So my campaigns that have, all my campaigns that don't have a tROAS or tCPA goal, I will actually throttle or increase or decrease the daily ad spend. When you add a tCPA or tROAS, what you're doing is saying you can never spend above what Google knows and you're there forever. If you're okay with that, for sure, but you can't scale. And if that audience starts to go cold, you have to turn it off anyway, spend a lot of money to relearn, and then lock yourself back into a tROAS or tCPA to then, again, decay over time. So no, it won't be, it's very profitable. Absolutely. And you're also looking at what is the cost of acquiring a new customer by your LTV. So it's something that I use it religiously.
All right. Nate, are you still doing smart shopping?
No one can.
No, we can't.
It's all gone.
Yeah. All right. Amaya, what is your dream PMax feature you would like Google to add?
Negative keywords.
Yep. 100%. Nate, are you still doing smart shopping? It seems like we still can't create them. No, we can't.
Can't. Yeah. I wish, but no.
Can you show us? Can you show us how?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Manav, thanks, guys. Good night. Good night, Manav. Thank you for being here. And Nate, to what point will you scale a smart shopping campaign until you put in a tROAS? We can't because smart shopping doesn't.
Yeah, and I mean, some people still have them. I can't create them. Yeah. I know Osama the other day is like, wait a minute, I thought I saw them one time. And we tried again. It was like, oh, wait, no, it's not there anymore. So I don't know if it's just a glitch that Google had a couple days ago, but I have not been able to see where you can start a smart shopping campaign. All of my ones that we're running are all now transitioned out of my hands. Like they're all done. I don't have any smart shopping anymore.
All right. No. And our final one, Gert Groot, thanks for the insights and great tips, great value.
Thanks, Gert. I'll talk to you on LinkedIn.
All right, we're done for the night. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Oh, get rid of that off my head.
You look better already.
All right. See you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.